Okay, next up I'm going to make this little dotted line right here. I'm going to do that with the rectangle tool, and I want no stroke. Again, these are the settings up here. I want no stroke, and I want the fill to be the color of the J line. And what I'm going to do is create the first one like so. And what I'm going to do is use the selection tool, and I'm going to hold Option or Alt on a Windows, and I'm going to drag this holding Shift to keep it in line to the next location, and then I'm just going to use Command D, Control D on a Windows machine, to duplicate that a bunch of times until it's all done. Done. For now, I'm done with the MUNI lines layer. So just like before, like we did with the top bar, I'm going to lock this layer so nothing moves. And I'm going to save. So far, so good. Let's start a new layer. Let's call this one Shapes. I want to keep it all caps. I like to be consistent. Okay, so let's start with the shapes, and let's move down here. And what I'm going to do is use the ellipse tool, which is over here underneath the rectangle. I can also hit L on the keyboard. And what I'm going to do is set my fill to be white. I'm going to set my stroke to be this gray. I think that's the right color gray. Let's see. I'm going to go to the center of this circle, and I'm going to hold Option because that means build it from the center. I'm going to hold Option and Shift, and I'm going to go to about the middle, and I need to move it down just a little bit, right there. And it looks like I have the wrong color stroke. So let me go back up to my stroke panel over here and change it to one stop darker. Cool. And now I need to change the thickness of the stroke so that it matches up. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go one more. Okay, so now I've got this bullet shape thing, and in the layers panel, I'm going to need to drag my shapes layer on top of MUNI lines. So I'm going to put it right there. And I'm going to name this thing. I'm going to call it circular stop. Cool. Now, just like we did before with that dotted line, I'm going to use the move tool, holding Option. Actually, it's called the selection tool. And I'm going to hold Shift as well so it moves in a straight line. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I want to hit Apple Y and make sure that the stop is snapped perfectly onto that line, which it's not. So I'm going to do it. Now it's snapped perfectly on the line. Very important. I'm going to be checking everyone's lines and shapes to make sure they're snapped. Okay, now I can use the selection tool with Option and Shift to move the next stop into place, like so. And I should be able to use Apple D duplicate to send all of these stops into the next spot. And remember how important it is to zoom in correctly, because that allows you to do a lot more accurate transformations. So I'm going to use Apple D to fill the rest of these in. I'm going to do it again, but this one goes to the very corner, right there. Cool. Okay, so now I've got most of my circular stops in place. It's possible I forgot a couple, but I can go back and fix that later if need be. Looks like most of them are there. So what I'm going to do next is to create the bars right here, these bars. That's a little bit more challenging. So what I can do is I can take a circular stop, duplicate it, and move it aside. And here's how you create the bar. Using the white arrow direct selection tool over here, A on the keyboard, I can delete one of the points either on the left or the right. And then using the selection tool, I'll select it, right click, say transform, reflect, and I want to reflect a copy. Then I can move that, holding Shift, over to the side, and with the pen tool, P on the keyboard, I want to connect the dots. Connect this one to this one. It's that simple. And then I'll connect this here. You don't want to just take one of these things and stretch it out because it won't look right. Okay, cool. So this thing right here will be called the, I don't know, bar stop. Cool. And now I can bring it to where it needs to go, which is over here. And I'm going to rotate it, holding Shift, so it's perfect 45 degrees. And I'm going to move it into place. But what I need to do now is stretch it out. And here's how you do that. Again, get the direct selection tool, A on the keyboard. And what I want to do is holding Shift, I want to click on this point, and this point. So I have just those 3 points selected. I'm going to drag it down like this until it's in place, right about there. Easy money. And using the selection tool, V on the keyboard, I select it, hold Option, and hold Shift. All these modifier keys are so important. And I move that bar into place, and then Apple D to duplicate. Looks like I've got some more bars down here, so I'm going to move those into place. And just like before, I'm going to use the direct selection tool to take these 3 points and shrink them down. So I want to go before it and then come back into it. It's just like tuning a guitar. You come down below the note and back up. Holding Option again, I'll do that exact same thing right there. I'll do it again. And now I'll change the points. Go above it, come back. It is so important to know the keyboard shortcuts. And bam.